extras in the mailbox, I guess. Everybody else did. Or they printed it themselves. It was all over the place. I just spent a lot of time like sliding it over.
I'll fix
Is the door unlocked? We can close the door?
Did you unlock it? We just propped it open.
Oh,
I don't have keys. These are open, so that's not gonna go away. Walked them through the firewall. Always unlocked. If you have
Okay.
Is Steve supposed to be here?
Is what?
Steve Schooler, is he supposed to be here?
I don't have to be here now.
Oh, I thought he was supposed to, I thought he was going to be here.
I did not hear that he was going to be.
That's fine.
I could fill in on all the little stuff.
Okay. I believe having an update from you would be really awesome.
I think so. We're fine.
Okay. Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. At this time, got that rolling. Let's go ahead with the roll call.
Marsh? Here. Timmons?
Here.
Hinckley? Here. Finch?
Here.
Ringa? Yes. Renslaw?
Here.
White? Here. Beth? Present?
Rosa is
Rosa.
missing. Excused. Staff present. John and Jeff are both not able to make it tonight. At this time, I'll open it up for limited public comment. Please stand, state your name, and come to the podium.
I mean, I'm not trying to add anything to your half hour.
Oh, that's no. We can be here as long as we need to.
I have comments on two different things that are interrelated here. And first are my immediate concerns about what's happening, what's going on.
State your name and address, Charlotte, please.
Charlotte Abernethy, 4312 Westridge. Okay. My immediate concerns, and it's not just me, are the gravel trucks supposed to be using Bunker Hill west of Watner Road? I have a vague memory of that being something they weren't supposed to be doing, but they are, and I've seen them, so have quite a few other people. And as part of all this SUP, the Meijer VGT development doesn't have any responsibility to Bunker Hill Road, and these heavy loads are going down the road, and that heavy of trucks on that road can be causing some major damage. And in the end, who's going to be responsible for the Bunker Hill repairs, as if it doesn't already need it? And will this be on the taxpayer-funded entities? And then the other part related to travel is there's going to be more traffic carrying construction materials and people trying to avoid driving through the construction areas. And if anybody has a projection of what those of us that live on Bunker Hill Road can expect to be happening when that starts. Then also, given the Bunker Hill is a narrow two-lane road, and it's already in very poor condition. What is the intent to improve the safety on the road, and who's going to be responsible for that safety on the road? Then my second part is some long-term concerns about what is happening. And first is that the planned development will greatly increase the number of people in Acme at any given time. Where there are people, there is crime, injuries, and illnesses. What is the plan for the increased need for police services? Who pays the bill for the extra law enforcement? What is the plan to deal with more traffic accidents occurring? And when a car accident happens, that ties up police or sheriffs, ambulance, and the fire department. And how does this bill get paid for all this extra service? And then also when there's more people, there will be more medical emergencies because of the increase of people. And again, how is the township intending to pay for these extra services? I've heard lots of stuff about water and sewer plans and how the increased need for the water and sewer, but I have not seen anything, anyplace written about a plan outlining the future public safety issues. And I'm not going to buy into a pat answer like, oh, there's going to be extra tax money and that's what's going to pay for all of this. And I am curious to know what the anticipated tax revenues increase is going to be and how this is going to cover the costs that are going to be increased in the township. And what is going to go to the township, the county, the state, and the federal into those coffers, and how do we know that the money from the increased tax revenues is going to go into our infrastructure needs? Sometime it would be good to hear the answers to those questions.
Thank you. All right, any other public comments this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll close it at 7:06. All right. Okay, I am going to go ahead. At this time, we have the agenda presented. There's only one item under E. If there's any comments on that, I would look for comments, if not a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
We have a motion by Timmons. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by White. Any discussion of approval of the agenda as presented? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. At this time, I'll inquire as to conflicts of interest. Now the agenda is set. None? All right, hearing none. We'll move on to correspondence, which we don't have any pertaining to this issue, so we'll go right into new business. I just want to take a quick second and respond to Charlene. On the second item of your concern, that would not be related to us specifically, because that is with the budget and with all the Metro Fire stuff the board handles. So you can visit Mr. White and the rest of the board at the next board meeting with those comments, because we're not in any position to adequately respond to them.
Okay.
As for the first one, I know that we've been getting some commentary at the township office, and Nikki might be able to speak to that, but I don't know that there's...
The only thing that I can say is I believe they are allowed to use that road. I don't think that's out of what they're allowed to do, being they're using the gravel pit. It's a county.
Yeah, I'm not talking about going down the gravel pit. I'm talking about going the other way. And I'm not quite sure where to find it in the massive quantities of papers, but I do have this memory that they were not supposed to be traveling down Bunker Hill Road and using that as an access. I mean, except the gravel pit.
I don't have any knowledge of that.
I don't ever remember, I know that that was talked about, but I don't ever remember it being something that we said in a stipulation that they couldn't do that. So I would just continue to make comments.
We could follow up with this tomorrow. If you want to stop in.
And somebody might have an answer as to Bunker Hill and improvements. but
Okay.
I'm not sure.
And I could follow up. with
There we
that.
go. That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah, and basically, that's gonna change soon. As far as the trucks using Bunker Hill and everything, with the construction of South Lautner Road and M72, we're trying to work this out with MDOT to coincide all that work in the same fiscal year as 2015, and get it all done in 1 year, so as to have the minimal impact on all the businesses in the region. So once we do that, they won't be using South Lautner or Bunker Hill. They'll be coming through M72, the trucks and everything access because of the construction zone there. The plan is to, and we have a meeting, myself and through the tribe and through the county and through MDOT and the developers, we have a meeting with MDOT, another meeting with MDOT to work all of these issues out. The plan is now to do all of the north end of South Lautner and including the roundabout in the spring of 2015. That's the plan. And then continue on with M72 construction westward and be done by the end of 2015. So all that work will coincide with the work that's going on with MDOT at 31. So we do it all in 1 year and it doesn't carry over into 2 years. Because if you end up doing M72 construction 1 year and then the 31 construction in another year, you're really impacting 3 years of financials to the local businesses. So we're working with MDOT, and it's going to be through the tribal BIA road program. And we're trying to get it all done in 1 year. We revised from doing, we changed the plan in the schedule of doing all of South Lautner Road from Bunker Hill North, and we changed the schedule because we're going to start that now. The engineering drawings are complete, which the tribe paid for to have those engineered through the BIA road program. They're complete. However, we're going to phase it and do the north part of South Lautner, including the roundabout on 72, which the roundabout is mandated by MDOT. A lot of people don't like that, but MDOT's mandating that, and I keep instructing doing that in the spring of 2015, just as soon as the weather breaks, and then do all that work in 2015. And then once that's done, the next year we'll come back and finish the rest of Lautner, because there's an issue with the stream crossing we found out down there, that the culvert size is too small and it floods out. So
Yes, it does.
we're fixing that too. And so there's extra engineering to be done with that. And then it goes outside the right of way, so we have to have archaeological surveys and environmental surveys done, and we're doing that right now too. And so we'll get down to Bunker Hill. Once we get down to Bunker Hill, we're going to carry out and continue road construction from there all the way to 31, and working with Grand Traverse County for improvements there on rebuilding that road and having a wider shoulder, making it safer. And then some of the curves, we want to try to have some of the curves a little straightened out a little bit.
So Bunker Hill is going to be part of all of,
Well, it's going to be in a different year. We're just
Okay.
doing 1 year at a time.
okay.
So we're going to wrap up South Lautner Road, get that all the way down to Bunker, and the following year, we'll do Bunker Hill all the way down to 31. And then the tribe will be paying for that
So
through
that
our
would
PIA
be-
road program.
That'd be projected for 2016?
Yes,
Okay.
that's our plan.
Thank you.
Yes.
So in the meantime, while you're working on Lautner and if you're working on Bunker Hill, then the traffic will be using 72 to 31. But when you're going to when you're working on 72 to 31, that portion in front of the VGT, they're going to be back into using the
They're gonna have to do
Lautner
that.
Bunker Hill,
Yes,
aren't
and
they?
that's why we did it that way, and then because it's going to create damage to the roads, and that's why we're finishing up with, once this is all done, we're working our way back that way, so any damages we can fix. And that's why we planned it that way, because they will be using that part of South Lautner Road at development will be all done, and then we'll have an access for construction through the back way, but then eventually we'll come back and fix everything. That's the plan.
When you're talking to them about that light at 31 and Bunker Hill, it's a really bad light. You can only get directional signals 3 directions. You know that. So if you talk to them, talk to them about that signal needing to be upgraded.
Exactly, and
Improved.
that's on our list, but MDOT's gonna dictate the design of that.
And I think that was part of the scope of the traffic study.
It was.
The one that J.R. Anderson did as part of this project.
Mm-hmm.
That, when we looked at the different signals and everything that would fail, I think that came up as one that might
Yeah,
fail or be
It
in
was
the-
a D or an F,
yeah.
Yeah.
that corner.
Because they rated all of them, that's how they did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, so we're trying to include that as part of our Bunker
Package.
Hill, but it's gonna be up to MDOT as far as how much we can do and what they're gonna let us do in the design of it, because that becomes part of MDOT and not the county anymore, because we'll deal with the county
Right.
all the way up to that intersection.
Bunker Hill and
Yeah,
Lautner.
and then
Yeah.
it goes over to MDOT.
Well, it's going to be enormous relief to many, many people that live off of Bunker Hill to hear that that road is going to be fixed, and I thank the band for taking that on.
And we're trying to also work with Tart Trails for a connection to the Vasta Trail also. And then there's going to be a crossing on Lautner Road for the bikes also down that way. So we're planning on that to connect with the bike trails also.
Is there something we can get like a community announcement on it or something?
Well, we don't want to do that until we have all the documents signed. I mean, you can talk about it, but we don't want any formal announcements until all the documents are signed with MDOT and the tribe. Because we're trying to decide if we're going to go with an MOA with the county and MDOT, or if the tribe's going to permit the project ourselves. And then that takes the responsibility off of MDOT and the county. And the county's all for it, and most all of MDOT is all for it. And we've done that before on other county road projects, and it's worked out great. And we basically hire certified personnel that work on state projects, and we'll bring them in as construction managers to handle the job, and we'll hire everything out ourselves and permit and do the letting and the bidding documents ourselves, and then we'll issue a contract to the low bidder or the best qualified bidder. So we'll end up handling that as the permittee, and that's what our preference is.
That was a lot of information. I kind of want you to say it all again.
Yeah.
We've been working hard behind the scenes on this, and we've really strategized a lot on how we can get all this work done in 1 year, and schedules to where we don't damage new construction and everything. It's been a
So
lot of work.
can we get an update then? So Lautner is engineered.
Lautner is the final review, engineering drawings are done.
Okay. And that would be with the county right now? then?
That would be the county,
Okay.
and then they're all for phasing that, because they know that if we do the whole thing now, part of it could be damaged by trucks
Okay.
later on. So we're gonna do the piece that affects the village right now. And then we'll move right on to the work on M72, which already has an approved phase 1 from MDOT. However, we did not design the tunnel and the west roundabout, which is the roundabouts from MDOT and the tunnels from us. So we're engineering that right now,
Okay.
and we'll have that done in plenty of time for the spring construction season.
Okay.
And then we're also on the approved phase 1 of M72 that MDOT approved. They wanted us to revisit the main roundabout grades and try to raise it up a little bit to make it a little bit safer. And that may shift it north onto the resort property a little bit. But since we're the owners of the resort, we have no issues with that, and it'll be a little bit safer, so we're working on it. So it's a little bit more re-engineering and another cost, but it makes it safer for the public, so we're gonna do that.
Okay. Okay, so now that we got all that, I'm gonna back up and talk about why we're here. You wanna talk about it, or you want me to talk about it?
Whatever you prefer.
Okay. If you all remember, we did, let me check the notes here so that I remember when we did it. In May of this year, we did an amendment to allow the separation of the land use permit for the entire project and the Meijer store, so that they could get started on the site work for the entire project before they got the issuance of the Grand Traverse County Road Commission permit. And that, once they got that in hand, would be when they could begin with the Meijer store. Now, in the evolution of the project, when looking at this, if they were the ones getting the permit, that'd be Grand Traverse Town Center, GTTC. If they were to be the ones getting the permits, then what we did in May would still hold true. However, now that the tribe is thankfully actually involved in looking at doing a little bit larger scope of work here, John and Jeff have both reviewed this, and they're looking at the road permits being allowed to be issued to other entities, and the Meijer land use permit be issued prior to that work, those permits being issued. So it's a sequential thing, just like what we looked at in May, and this would be, the Meijer store would then get started, I believe they went like the land use permit yesterday, and then the road improvements would be happening concurrently while the Meijer is being constructed, and through to the end of next August, September, whenever the Meijer store would be slated to open, the construction in a perfect world would be wrapping up. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. It's hard for me to think about, so now, are there other things I should say right now? I think that's the gist of it, is it's a sequential.
Right, but still what stands is that Meijer cannot, or anything else that goes in, cannot get their occupancy until the road work is done. Doesn't matter who is doing it.
Right, and that's what we were working on the schedule to be done concurrently with Meijer in the fall of 2015, where the roads are opened up and usable. We might have a few punch list items to do, like if we get bad weather and washout, we might have to do some grading or seeding or stuff like that, or a little landscaping, but
Sure.
the roads will be open and usable at the same time that Meijer is open. So that's the plan.
The infrastructure would be there.
Correct.
Just
We're working on that right
maybe
now.
not the trees and landscape.
Right, and that shouldn't be an issue because the fall is the best time to plant anyway, usually later in the season.
Also this year, we didn't really get a summer, so I'm pretty sure you could seed all year this year.
Yes.
Yeah. Right, so that's the big stipulation here that we need to make sure that we clarify, is that Meijer or any other project that were to be approved in the
Town center.
VGT, Grand Traverse Town Center, whatever name it's going by right now, would not be able to occupy or open until the road improvements are completed. Because we've seen in the traffic study that the traffic generated by the Meijer store alone, let alone any other store development, would cause essentially failure of the current intersections that are there. So that we need to make sure is very clear with everybody. And the developer, in their letter, I believe, recognizes that that's the case. That this is sequentially how it needs to happen. Otherwise, the Meijer would just have to sit for a year until it's done.
Right. I just also want to add that this is just a minor amendment to site plan 2009-01P. It's not a major amendment, just a minor amendment.
Yep, and in John's review, he put what a minor amendment is to kind of clarify that for everyone, so.
And then part of that is, like you were explaining, is construction sequencing. It's also funding sequencing. We have all the funds for Lautner Road in the bank, and then by the spring, before we start heading west on M72, we'll have all the funding for M72. We have half of it right now, but we'll get the rest of it, so it's kind of a sequencing thing too. It's all locked up and approved, but it's a matter of when the Bureau of Indian Affairs hands over the the federal gasoline tax portion of our share for that. So it's already set and done, it's just a matter of when they issue the rest of the funds. So it works out really well, how we sequence that.
Questions?
The only question I had was, what protection does the township have for, say, if the roads are not complete and say the other developments within the GTC are completed, and they're screaming for occupancy, what protection does the township have because the road infrastructure would be incomplete and the traffic study says there would be a failure? What can the township do to protect itself or any liability, whatever the case is?
If something falls through with the band and the road work, the developer has posted a bond for completion of that road. That is the backup.
And they would not get their occupancy permit for the store either.
Yeah.
So,
So,
Either way, it was
Yeah.
finished.
so even if the store is finished and sitting there waiting to open, if those road improvements are not done, it's clear, I believe, on all parties that they would not be able to open. The legally how we would do that, that's a question for council, but council is supporting this motion or minor amendment. So I believe that he would have the wherewithal to know that there's some way we can stop that. Nikki, I don't know if you have any insight.
The certificate of occupancy would not be issued.
We can't control what the county does
Right,
with the certificate of occupancy. So the question is, how can we control when someone else can get occupancy because we're not the building code office? And they won't get involved with stipulations of our site plan. That's not
But
their job to
Their
enforce.
special use, it stipulates it in their special use permit. We have control of their special use permit.
Right,
It stipulates right in there that
right. And even in Schooler's letter, somewhere I read it, it says, is it on the second? All of the requirements remain effective, including the M72 and Lautner improvements required by the findings of fact and site plan approvals must be completed prior to the occupancy and/or opening of the Meijer store or any other development on the VGT. And that is signed by Steve Schooler, who's the agent for the VGT. So they recognize that nothing can open unless those road improvements are complete. So it's still effective as part of the site plan, but they're allowed to get their land use permit and commence.
we've already had several meetings. We've had all parties in the same room talking, MDOT, their staff, the village of Grand Traverse Town Center, even Meijer representative, and then all of our representatives, our BIA road, even the federal BIA engineer, road engineer, was on conference call with us. So we've had several meetings like that with everybody in the room, and we have another one either Tuesday or Wednesday at MDOT's office. And then also, right after that other meeting we had with everybody in the room, the very next day I drove down to Lansing to the engineer's office to make sure that the engineering documents will be done in time and that the construction can be done in one summer, which I know it can based on my experience, and the same with the engineer that's going to take the lead on the design. They have no issues with completing it all in one summer too. So we're working hard on that, getting that done. It'll happen.
I'm gonna start a ferry service from my house over to the base of the peninsula. If you guys are nervous about traffic next year. No?
Well,
I think it's enterprising.
It took me an hour and a half to get here from Sutton's Bay, so, and that's without construction.
So you'll be late for all of our meetings next year
No,
in
I'm
the
gonna
summer.
move to this side of the bay.
He's gonna be Skyped in.
We'll just turn the computer.
Okay, does that answer your question? Yeah. So it's a little out of a normal sequence that we have, but it's manageable. Other questions? Doug, you good?
I'm good. I think you explained it very well.
Trey, you're good
I'm good.
now? Okay. With nothing else, I mean, I don't know if anybody feels moved.
I would make a motion to revise number 7 of permit number 2009-1P to read. You want me to read it?
I think you should.
Okay. Should I leave it with the VGT?
Yep.
Okay.
That's still-
They are still VGT LLC.
Oh, okay.
The name of the development, though,
Has changed.
is Grand Traverse Town Center due to the commons issue with the commons, I believe, is why that changed.
So the VGT must obtain all necessary agency permits and/or approvals, including but not limited to soil erosion, Department of Environmental Quality, Metro Emergency Services, Grand Traverse County Drain Commission. VGT can be issued separate land use permits for phase construction during phase 1. VGT's first land use permit to construct all the internal on-site work for VGT, except for the Meijer store LUP, can be issued so long as all conditions and requirements, the findings of facts, and the site plan approval are met, except that VGT shall not be required to obtain its MDOT and GT County Road Commission's permits for improvements in roundabouts on 72 and Lautner Roads. VGT and/or Meijer's second land use permit to construct the Meijer store and other land use permits for other phases of the VGT development, if such phases come to the township and are approved, can be issued so long as all conditions and requirements of the findings of fact and the site of plan approval are met, except for that VGT and/or Meijer shall not be required to obtain the MDOT permit for improving the roundabouts on 72 or the road construction permits for improvements on Lautner Road. All other requirements remain effective, including that the M72 and Lautner Road improvements required by the findings of fact and site plan approvals must be completed prior to the occupancy and/or opening of the Meijer store or any other development on the VGT.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by White. Any discussion? Okay, at this time, we will vote on the motion that I'm not going to read back to you right now. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Okay. Motion carries. We're now going to breeze right along. I'm 1 minute over, ladies. We're
Very
going to
good.
breeze right along to we don't have really anything else. We'll do a public comment portion of the meeting though, opening at 7:31. Closing at 7:31. Can't even fake it, then we left it open for a minute. At this time, we look for, we got one from White. He wants to go take a nap. He's been shaking cherries for weeks. All right, we had a second from Timmons, all in favor.
Aye.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
The sign on that.
Yes.
Is it going to be bigger